I want to ask the Minister a very simple question, whether she agrees that all social welfare payments should be increased at least in line with inflation in the forthcoming budget. The Government didn't do that in the last budget. The result is that the poorest people in our society got poorer as a consequence of the decisions that the Government made. The consequence is more people in deprivation, more people at risk of poverty, more people using food banks.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Murphy. And I am acutely aware, as we all are, of the pressures faced by households given increases in the cost of living. And thankfully, this Government's management of the Irish economy means that even in the face of challenging international conditions, we have the capacity to respond, and we have responded. Last September, I announced the largest social welfare budget in the history of the state, comprising measures worth almost €2.2 billion. The budget did not take the approach of simply increasing payment rates in line with inflation. Instead, it provided a combination of 8 lump sum payments and a €12 across-the-board increase in weekly rates, the largest such increase since the mid-2000s. In addition, it continued the practice taken in recent years to provide targeted, above-inflation increases in key payments. As the Deputy will be aware, we have particularly focused in recent budgets on increasing qualified child payments, fuel allowance payments and living alone payments, as well as the income thresholds on working family and lone parent payments, as these are shown to have the greatest impact in reducing poverty. Independent ESRI analysis found that Budget 2023, in following this approach, delivered for lower income households, who were found to be better off than if they had just received an inflation-indexed increase in basic rates. What this analysis indicates is that a simple inflation-adjusted increase in rates is not necessarily the best approach, and in fact that targeted measures can be more effective in alleviating poverty and addressing cost of living pressures. Accordingly, as Minister, I will continue to examine the evidence produced by organisations such as the Vincentian Partnership for Social Justice to inform how the social welfare budget package should be constructed. And as the Deputy may be aware, the work of the Vincentian Partnership is funded by my department. The Deputy may also be aware that each year the Department runs a pre-budget forum at which stakeholders and advocacy groups, including the Vincent de Paul, Bernardo's and others, have an opportunity to meet with me and present their own proposals for measures that they would like to see included in the budget. And this year's forum is being held on the 19th of July. Decisions about Budget 2024 will be made in the coming months and will take account of the analysis and the recommendations put forward by these stakeholders. And it goes without saying that in working with my ministerial colleagues, I will of course look to respond to changes in the cost of living. We have not been found wanting so far, and we will not be found wanting in the future. Thanks for your indulgence.
Thanks. But the Government has been found wanting, Minister. More people are at risk of poverty. More people are using food banks. More people are in deprivation. That's the consequence of the Government's decision to increase social welfare rates and so on at less than the rate of inflation, along with lots of other decisions that the Government made. I mean, the Minister herself referred to the increase of €12 in the last budget, an increase of 5.7%, when inflation last year was 8.1%. Inflation this year is running at 6.6% to May 2023. And as the Minister undoubtedly will know, that the real rate of inflation for the poorer sections of our society is actually significantly higher than that, because they spend a much higher portion of their goods, of their income on groceries, where there's higher rates of inflation. So, for example, the Vincentian Partnership for Social Justice estimates that the increase in the minimum essential standard of living in 2023 will be 10%. So they are the kind of increases that we need if you don't want to push people even further into poverty.
Thank you. Sorry, Deputy. Look, I think that any fair-minded person will agree that this Government has, since its formation in 2020, provided unprecedented supports to protect people and families, firstly through the pandemic, and then with the cost of living. Just to give you an example, because you know we can all get tied up in statistics, what I want to see is money in pockets. And if you take a lone parent with a 12-year-old child, based on the spring-summer payments, once-off payments, they came to a total of $525, whether it was the electricity credit or the lump sum payment for those in receipt of the fuel allowance. Then you go to autumn and you have a list of the double weekly payment, 200 electricity credit again, fuel allowance 400 lump sum, double monthly payment of child benefit, working family payment €500 lump sum, and 100% Christmas bonus. And that adds up to 1,700. And then you come to spring, 200 electricity credit in January, another one in March, 200 lump sum payment to primary recipients of the long-term social welfare payments, including work and family payment, €100 child benefit paid last month, and €100 payment extra for each child for whom back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance to be paid in 2023. So when you add all that up, you get the equivalent of €59 per week, and then when you add on top of that another €12 for an increase to the one-parent family payment, so that was across-the-board increases, and the qualified child payment increased by €2, bringing the rate to €50 for over 12s and 42. So what I'm talking about here, Deputy, is money in their pocket, and they needed every penny that they got. I'm under no illusions there. And what I want to do in the budget is to listen to the stakeholders and put a budget package together that targets those most in need.
But what the government did, what it prioritised, was once-off payments. That's all of those things, or the vast majority of those things you listed, are once-off payments. But the price increases are permanent, Minister. The price increases are permanent. They're not going to go down. The groceries aren't going to decrease in price compared to what they were a couple of years ago. If inflation goes down, the prices don't go down. It's just the rate of increase is reduced. And the consequence of that is going to be, unless you actually match social welfare payments to inflation, actually the inflation that people in the most deprived sections of our communities are feeling, well, then you're going to push more and more people into poverty. So you say you want to see money in people's pockets? Great, I want to see money in people's pockets. But the best way to do that is to actually increase the money that's going into people's pockets through social welfare payments. If you don't do that, in reality, you're just pushing people further and further into crisis. And this is real. I mean, you look at the Bernardas survey at the end of last year, where the number of parents using food banks doubled over the course of a year, 1 in 10 parents. That is a horrific reality, and a very large proportion of those people obviously are reliant on entirely inadequate social welfare payments.
Thank you. Well, if we're going to compare statistics, analysis by the ESRI showed that combined with the increase in the core social welfare payment rates, these lump sums effectively compensated lower income households for price increases, and in fact were more effective than a price index linked increase in core rates. So again, Deputy, I'd say to you, what I want to see is money in people's pockets when they need it to pay the bills and to put the food on the table. And you mentioned about food banks. I would say to anybody that can't put food on the table, they should talk to their community welfare officer. That's what the additional needs payment is there for. That is the state's safety net. It's available for anybody who needs it, and I encourage them to use it. And if you don't want to go to a community welfare officer, they're online. You can contact them online as well. So the money, of course, needed to fund these measures was available due to sound economic management by this government, which has contributed to historically low levels of unemployment. And the government has already clearly stated that it is keeping the cost of living situation under review, and has acted as necessary time and time again. So I will be listening to all the stakeholders on the 19th of July, and as every other year I will work with my government colleagues to put together a package that will support people on social welfare, on payments, and to put together a package that targets those at most at need. Thank you.
Minister. Question 100.